Hey, what's going on? It's now 3 o'clock chat here. The Trailblazers are officially on fire. They hammered the Pacers last night, 112-89. Scoot and Shaden each scored 17 off the bench, with Grant and Simons combining for 42. Portland used a 28-9 fourth-quarter run to take control of the game. Coach Billups talked about being a team that no one wants to play.
I do, and that's been my vision the entire time, is I want to be that team that nobody wants to play against. Even when you come in and play well and win, like you have to fight so hard for that win. You know, you have to go earn that, and that's what I want us to be.
Blazers have won 9 of their last 10. They finish up their 7-game homestand tomorrow night against the Kings. Tip-off from Moda at 7. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5 on your home of the Blazers. 620 Rip City Radio. NBA trade deadline is coming up tomorrow at noon. Keep it locked into 620 Rip City Radio for the latest on your Trailblazers. Another big move today. The Milwaukee Bucks have sent Chris Middleton to the Wizards in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans Sunday, 3:30 kickoff on Fox. The Chiefs remain a 1.5-point favorite over the Eagles.
It's time for the Rip City Drive, brought to you by Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men, 1-800-DIVORCE. Featuring the crazy and often irrational longtime Portland radio vet, Chad Dewing.
James for 3, looking for his first in the league, and that's it. His first made 3, Bronny James on the board after he missed his first 9 three-pointers in the NBA.
Very happy to be here for this opportunity. It's the Lakers. It's one of the best clubs in history, so I'm excited to be here.
There's a steal by Ayton in the front court by himself, the drive and the dunk, and DA's getting in on it. Showing off the open court dribble for the big fella. 71-56 Trailblazers. After the way that things went last night, how much that took out of this team, how were you able to find the energy in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, back-to-backs are always tough, man. And look at T.
Don't let him do that to you.
Sometimes guys get tired, man. It's always the next man up mentality.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Dewing starts now.
Well, I could tell you that the Portland Trailblazers are playing their best stretch of basketball right now in 6 years. They have won 9 of their last 10. They destroyed the Pacers last night, 112-89 at Moda Center, and they did it with their toughness. They punched the Pacers in the mouth in the second half. They closed the game on a 28-9 run and took full control. And it's been a long time since we can say this, but during this win streak where they won 9 of 10, they're number 1 in every prominent defensive statistical category. They're doing it with defense and with energy and with toughness. And I think the most exciting part for me, and the reason why I've had so much fun watching this team, is they're being led by their young talent. Yes, Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant combined for 42 points last night. But if you look around, the defense and the energy from Toumani Camara, Scoot and Shaden off the bench were sensational. And this team, with their youth, is starting to figure it out. Not just the improvements that we've seen as individuals with Kamara or Avdia and both Scoot and Shaden, but an understanding of how to play together as a unit, as a team. And what they've done as they've continued to grow throughout this year, when you combine the youth and energy with the veteran presence of guys like Grant and Simons, or Robert Williams III, who played last night, you're getting a team right now that is playing terrific basketball. So it's a lot of fun. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are frustrated about many different things, but I think we all have to take a step back and celebrate what we're seeing right now, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. No longer do we have to worry about the doldrums of the rebuild process, because they're nearing the end of that. Now, they still have a lot of work to do. Joe Cronin and his staff have to continue to reshape the roster and bring in young assets via draft picks or young players. And the young guys on the floor have to continue to get better. Scoot's got to continue this arc that he's on right now, being a more consistent shooter, becoming a better defender, and finishing better around the rim. Shaden Sharp has got to break through this tendency to lack aggressiveness. I think he's still trying to find his way with veteran teammates, but he needs the continued encouragement from the coaching staff to be aggressive and look to take it over because he's got that type of talent. Tamani Kamara and Denny Avdia are, you just got to get out of their way. Those guys are freaks. The way they defend, the way they play with energy, their aggressiveness. We're seeing the improvements with the perimeter shooting for Tamani Kamara. And Denny Avdia, I think, is a budding flower right now. He looks great. And then Donovan Clingan, with conditioning, with time, he's only going to get better. He's been very productive in the limited minutes he's played so far this year. So the excitement for me, yes, the winning is great. And you want to see results on the floor. You want to understand that the guys that you're developing are grasping the concepts that you're handing them in practice and what you want them to do on the floor, how you want them to execute. But that's starting to come together. And this is the best stretch of basketball they've had since 2019, late in that season before Nurk went down. But 9 out of 10 is really good. And I understand that some of the competition during that stretch is not the best of the best in the NBA. It's not Cleveland, Boston, Oklahoma City. But they've played some good teams. And I got to be honest with you, it really doesn't matter who's on the schedule. Winning 9 of 10 is difficult. And for this group, based on what we've seen over the last few years, it's a dramatic improvement. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pumped. And you can feel the vibe and energy around this group. They're really starting to carve out that niche of a classic Trailblazer team that we enjoy rooting for, the kind of teams that we fall in love with because of the way they compete. And I think for Chauncey Billups, who's been much maligned by many Blazer fans during his tenure here in Portland, I've always been a Billups fan. I think you know that. I like him, and I think he's got the ability to continue to grow into a very good coach. Criticize whoever you want. I really don't care. But you have to, if you're going to criticize him for every little thing that you believe he does that's wrong, that's fine. But you have to applaud the work that we're seeing in terms of development. I think he and his staff have done a terrific job with the young players on the roster. We're seeing dramatic improvement. And their patience in continuing to work with these guys and hold them accountable is paying off. Even Shaedon Sharpe, who was, regressing defensively, Coach Billups benched him and then publicly called him out and said, yeah, I'm benching him because his defense is not where we want it to be. He has the ability to be great, and I expect that of him, and therefore we're going to send a message. And that's the right way to do it. The reason why he benched Sharpe isn't because he was mad at him. It's because he believes he's got the talent to be great. And because he wasn't giving the type of effort he needed on the defensive end, he made the change. And Sharpe has responded, and he's played very well off the bench. His work and patience with Scoot. Now that he just turned 21 years old this week, over the last month, we're seeing him turn a corner. And that's really great news because this franchise needs Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe to cash in. They need those two guys to develop and continue on the arc that they're on right now. Tamani Kamara and Denny Avdia, look, every team in the NBA wants them. Joe Cronin gets calls from everybody in the league about those two guys because they're exactly what you want. Playmakers at the wing position with size who can defend and do it on both ends. And the Blazers have been searching for those dudes ever since Nick Batum and LaMarcus Aldridge departed Portland. And finally, they've got it. So now you continue to press forward. A lot of work to be done, but I like where they're at. And I'm enjoying watching this group play. I'm having fun. They're out there grinding. But most importantly, I like tough teams in all sports. I don't like soft teams. I don't like teams that aren't willing to commit to the defensive end. I like to see togetherness and toughness and guys going out there to compete. That's what it's all about to me. I love toughness. My favorite teams are ones that are tough, that have some intestinal fortitude to battle through difficulties and to defend and show a willingness to get after defensively. I think it's great. And after the game, Coach Billups talked about his desire, and he's mentioned this before, about being a team that nobody in the league wants to play, which they're clearly becoming that, because I'll tell you what, when the Blazers punched the Pacers in the mouth last night in the fourth quarter, they didn't want any part of that. And Coach Billups was asked about being that type of team after the game.
I do, and that's been my vision the entire time, is I want to be that team that nobody wants to play against. Even when you come in and play well and win, like you have to fight so hard for that win. You have to go earn that. And that's where I want us to be, at all times, home or on the road. I want teams to earn their keep against us, and we're doing that right now. We've been pretty good at it.
Gosh, that pumps me up. I love being that type of team. Yeah, you might come in and get the win, but you're going to feel us when you walk out of the arena. You're going to know that you had to earn that it wasn't some type of cakewalk. The other aspect of this team that I'm enjoying right now is it's not just one player. It's multiple guys on different nights who step up to make game-winning plays. And when you have that type of team and you can't zero in on one or two dudes, it makes you very difficult to guard. And Coach talked about that type of versatility with his current squad.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've played so well, to be honest with you, Aaron, because you can't just gear up to guard one or two people on our team. You know, we got so many people going every single night. You'd never know. It's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 guys, you know, that are getting these 17s, 18s, 20. That makes you really difficult to guard. You know, teams that we play against, and we can't just lock in on 2 or 3 people. That's the reason why this team, the Pacers, are really difficult to guard, because you just never know. That ball is popping and it's moving, and they're moving bodies, they're moving the basketball, and make you very difficult to lock into. And that's kind of how we've played, you know, when we've been able to get stops. And tonight, you know, we go plus 12 on the glass, which is a really, really big thing that we've been trying to key in on. When we can get stops and get rebounds, man, we can get out there and make it difficult for people. So that's kind of the key for us.
That's what it's all about. Love the way this team is competing right now. Love the energy and the vibe around this group, the young players who are continuing to progress, and we're seeing them win the right way. Like last night, Grant with 20, 22 and 7 assists for Simons, but good defensive contributions from multiple guys, including Kamara, who was Mr. Everything once again. The steals, the rebounds, double digits in points, and then Scoot and Shaden off the bench being ultra productive. You got like 4 or 5 guys out there getting the job done. And they were in attack mode. And they've been like that during this recent stretch. So props to the Trailblazers and props to Coach Billups and his staff. But this is what we want to see. And I think it's pretty awesome that I can step back and see the vision now. I can see the clarity of what's going on with the front office and with this team, with the young players. Those 5 guys that I mentioned, Scoot, Shaden, Donovan Clingan, Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara. I mean, think about those 5 building blocks, all being young, all being on that proper trajectory as they continue to improve. And then you move into the offseason and you continue to add to that. There's a good foundation now. So I can see the vision. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And right now, this is something we could celebrate. Because when you draft or acquire young talent and you develop them and you show patience and you work with them, and finally we start to see the results on the floor with production and wins, that's the name of the game. And so we can celebrate that. So props to the Trailblazers. That was a lot of fun last night. They will match up against the Kings tomorrow night. Tip-off from Moda at 7. It's the end of their 7-game homestand and a chance to make it 10 of their last 11. And right now, I can tell you they're probably going to do it because they are locked in big time. And Coach Billups has got to be proud, because I really think that this team right now is an extension of the type of player he was. And that's a good compliment to give to a coach. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Here's what we got coming up on the show. My man Alex Brink, our college football and NFL insider, former quarterback for the Cougs, who's going to join me next. And then Michael Holton will join me in studio at 5:20 for a little Holton on Hoops. And the Trailblazers tomorrow in action against the Kings, tip-off at 7 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. I'll tell you what's been kind of fun. Alex Brink and I have been having a hard time connecting via text message. So he went old school and started sending me emails. And so I feel like now I've got a pen pal back as he joins the show once again, our college football and NFL insider. Alex, I love being pen pals with you, man. What's up?
Man, I tell you what, I got phone issues apparently because it's definitely on my end. But I was happy to jump on the old email box and send that your way. So felt like you said, very old school.
Well, I appreciate your time. And by the way, I had a lot of fun with you down at Spirit Mountain Casino doing our countdown to the college football playoff shows. Man, it was fun to talk ball with you for 3 hours twice.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure why we don't just do that, because I loved hanging in the sports book with you, man.
Oh, it was great. I appreciate it. Well, I want your thoughts on Steve Spagnuolo. I've got a lot of respect for him, and I'm sure you do as well. But what did you make of that 4th down and 5 call in the AFC title game using the corner blitz to get pressure on Josh Allen?
Yeah, it's par for the course, I think, for Spags, right? I mean, he's a pressure package defensive coordinator. He does a really nice job of understanding tendencies and schemes from an offensive standpoint, how to put pressure on, the protection, right? That's what you're ultimately trying to do is when you bring pressure like corner blitz or really any pressure package, is you're trying to overload ultimately the protection of the offensive line, the running backs, and so forth. And, it was an aggressive play call. And, obviously Josh Allen he barely got it out and threw a decent enough ball that it had a chance, right, in a really tough situation. So sometimes that's the margin for error. But I love the aggressiveness. That's how I like it. If I were to be a coach and have a defensive coordinator, I'd want them to be aggressive like Spags.
I've been dying to ask you this question because you played the position, but I'm wondering, we've seen over the years that Patrick Mahomes is so good in those pressure situations, especially when teams blitz him throughout the course of the postseason. How much do you think he benefits from being in practice every day, going up against the best blitzing coordinator of all time?
There's no doubt about it. To have those constant reps, even at when you're, Mahomes and you've been playing at a high level for a long time, you just think about often there are moments where you get kind of what we call ones-on-ones, right? Like good-on-good reps where, they may go against each other. Typically it's in training camp, not generally during the season, but you get to see some of those things. And, when you play against blitz, we talk often when I coach quarterbacks through E4 Sports and Elite 11 at a national level about, finding ways to be comfortable when you're in uncomfortable situations, because that's what playing quarterback is, right? It's always uncomfortable, particularly when you're getting pressure. You have to be comfortable in those scenarios, and you can see Mahomes, he has that comfort level, right? You maybe just pick up one step here or a little bit of space. You stand in there and deliver it even though you're going to get hit. All those things are learned, right? And clearly Mahomes has benefited from that in practice.
We're talking with Alex Brink, former Coug, E4 Sports here on the Rip City Drive. Every year is different for teams, but with the Chiefs this year, what's been the most impressive thing to you about their current run?
I think this year, and we talked about this at one point, in our last shows down there at the casino, was, this team to me is a more complete team because of the defense. And part of it's defensive coordinator, but I also think they've done just a fantastic job through the draft and in free agency in building that defense that it, to me, is more the strength of this team than even the offense. And I know at times that's crazy to say because of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and all the things. I think the defense is better than the offense is at times. Defensive line is fantastic, right? Going out and getting a young player like Karlaftis in the draft at defense then was great. I know Jaden Hicks really well from Washington State at the safety position. He's playing fantastic and has been a great piece. Trent McDuffie in the slot, things like that. I think that's where I see this team has really improved. And I think it gives them a chance against a really good chance, frankly, which I know we'll talk about, against an Eagles team that wants to be physical and wants to run the football. In the past, I'm not sure the Chiefs would have been able to match up in that regard. I think they can this year.
All right, let's talk about that Eagles rushing attack. Saquon Barkley's been dominant this year, 2,000 yards rushing. We saw him dominate throughout their playoff run to get to the Super Bowl. What are the challenges in trying to stop that run attack with Saquon Barkley and a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who they will create designed runs for?
For sure. It starts with Saquon, obviously, because he's a generational talent at running back. And there was a moment, right, where it felt like NFL teams kind of decided that, hey, we could throw anybody in at running back and we'll make it work, right? It's going to be more of a passing league and so on and so forth. Well, then guys like Saquon come along and you realize how valuable elite running backs are, because he can just change the game in so many different ways. And they've done a nice job at the offensive line and the point of attack, being able to, build a line that can help get him some holes. But in the end, Saquon's the difference maker. And then you add in Jalen Hurts' legs, and it creates that extra, what we call that extra gap, right? An extra guy that the defense has to account for. And all those things combined make it really tough to stop a rushing attack. So I think when we talk about the Chiefs, the challenge is going to be, how do you get him off track, Saquon specifically? And that's going to come from that front four, right? And at times front five for the Chiefs. It's got to start with the defensive line, because if Saquon gets to the second level, it's such a challenge for the linebackers and for sure the safeties to tackle him in space without him either breaking the tackle and making a big play or just in general falling forward for first down. So it's going to have to happen up front. Chris Jones, Karlaftis, those guys have got to make an impact at the line of scrimmage.
Well, that battle's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, with Jalen Hurts, he's not at the level of Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, but he's had a lot of success in his career. What do you think is his best strength?
Well, there's the physical side, and then there's kind of the not physical side. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts' strength is his mentality. He is so even keeled. He's such a good leader.
Yeah.
There's been moments in his career, right, where it feels, he's been so good, right? Led him to a Super Bowl, done these things. But there's moments where almost people are like, well, the lack of success in Philly at times is Jalen Hurts' fault, right? And he's had to wear that constantly. And I just see him always standing up, and on the field, he's very even-keeled. Off the field, he manages those situations really well. And you can tell he's such a good leader for that team. And I think that spills over where guys want to make plays for him. And he's got the talent and the ability to throw the football, and he's athletic enough and all those sort of things. But to me, his superpower is in his ability to stay neutral and stay even-keeled throughout the game and throughout a season.
How much do you think Hurts will benefit having played in this game before 2 years ago against the same team?
There's no doubt that he'll benefit from it. When you play in this game and it's your first time, there's so much that goes into it. It's not just the day of, right? The day of jitters of playing in the Super Bowl and all that goes into it. The weeks leading up to it, man, there's so much between the media and the practice and all the commitments you're asked to do and all the stuff. Like, it's just different if you've never done it before. And so when you've done it before, you know what to expect. You know how to prepare yourself. You maybe learn from things you did well or didn't do well before. And so I think that's going to matter. I think obviously him, playing against the Chiefs before, and he's played them plenty in the, those things matter. I think part of it is there's such a mystique right now around the Chiefs, and going for 3 in a row and all those sort of things. Again, I think for Hurts, he's probably got some of the experience to be able to block some of those things out.
We're talking with Alex Brink, former Coug, E4 Sports here on the Rip City Drive. Andy Reid looks like he's trying to track down Bill Belichick and be known as the greatest coach of all time. What do you think are the attributes that make him so successful as a head coach?
A couple different things. I mean, one thing I know about Andy Reid is, he's a true leader of men, and he's able to get players to buy into his vision. I was fortunate a few years ago to go to the BYU coaches clinic out in Provo, and he spoke and he gave a speech on kind of how he, his first intro to teams, like the day one of training camp and what he says, and he had a slide deck of how he does it. And what you realize is that, for athletes, especially the highest level athletes, they want somebody that's genuine. They want somebody that's going to hold them accountable, but in a way that is fair and is understanding to, their needs and kind of the team's needs. And that's what Andy Reid outlined so clearly, is that, hey, I'm going to get you in the best position to be successful, and that's going to benefit the team. And when the team has success, we all have success, and then we're all going to benefit. And you realize that for athletes, that's really what they want, is that clarity. And so I think he gets great buy-in from his players across the board, and you see that, right, with all his teams, but particularly with the Chiefs. The second part of it is that he's an elite offensive mind who, for a coach that's been around for a long time, is also very willing to adapt and change to his personnel. And that is something that's really hard for coaches to do, because they kind of get stuck in their ways and they believe it's plays over players. And in the reality, it's players over plays. And I think Andy Reid's found the best mix of both offensively.
All right, Patrick Mahomes, if he does it on Sunday and gets 3 straight Super Bowls, which has never been done before, how much will that help him in his pursuit of being known as the greatest of all time next to Tom Brady?
I mean, I would argue that if he does it, you're quickly like we're having the conversation,
yeah.
right? Like
yeah.
it's just he's so. I mean, what's the stat? I mean, it's 5 out of 6 years he's been in a Super Bowl or something, right? Or championship game or whatever the stat is. Like he's been in the Super Bowl. He's going to win 3 straight. Like if he does that, you quickly have to say that for a guy at a young age to be able to do that, he's in that. He's immediately in that conversation. And doesn't need to do much more, to prove otherwise.
Like, who are the 2 or 3 guys that you've always looked towards as the greatest? Like, for me, it would be Elway, Mahomes, Brady. But who are the guys for you that you've always respected in terms of their abilities and how they played the position?
Yeah, like for me growing up, like it was always looking back and kind of watching, even though as a young age, like Montana, right? That's always the guy. Joe Montana is always a guy that I've just loved watching the tape. And I loved everything about his story, right? That's kind of number one. I think not necessarily greatest of all time conversation, but great at the position and kind of all timers. Like Drew Brees was another one for me, right? Had some physical limitations to some degree with height. Figured out how to play the position, went through some really early challenges with the shoulder injury, and then went on to just be absolutely unbelievable, right? And if he isn't playing in the Brady era, there's a chance he's winning a lot more of those championships also. So Breeze is another one. Tom Brady, there's no doubt, like for sure. So kind of those guys, outside of this new era of athlete with Mahomes and those guys has been who I like to follow and think about.
You may have already said it when you were talking about the Eagles' offensive front and the run game against the Chiefs' defensive line. Is that the key matchup, or is it something else?
I think it's the key matchup, but at some point, Jalen Hurts is going to have to beat the Chiefs throwing the football, right? And he's got the weapons to do it, and he's got the ability. But I think that's where, he's going to have to make a big third down throw. He's going to have to do something in a key moment that is not leaning on Saquon and that offensive line. And I think that's where we're going to see is, third and long, when they do get in those third and long situations, and if the Chiefs are really selling out at the line of scrimmage, and stopping the run, can he beat you at the pass? And so I think it kind of those two things play together in a way, right? Like if the offensive line can't get going against the Chiefs defensive line, then Hurts has got to beat you with throwing the football. But I think in the end, it's going to end up being a moment where Jalen Hurts got to win the game throwing the ball.
How do you see it playing out, Alex?
Gosh, I mean, it's so I've gone back and forth very candidly. Like I feel like there's an inevitability to who the Chiefs are and what they've done this season, and obviously tied to recent seasons. Like, how do you bet against Patrick Mahomes? I already talked about how much I love the defense. Yeah. But then I also do think that Saquon Barkley is good enough to flat out beat you. Like, he could rush for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that could be we could be sitting here saying that was the greatest free agency signing of all time, right? Sort of thing. So I think the Chiefs win it. I think ultimately, defensively, they're going to get enough stops, and the Chiefs' offense is built for moments like this. A couple weeks of preparation, the chance to game plan, Patrick Mahomes pulling the trigger, all the things, and I think the Chiefs ends up squeaking it out.
All right, I got 2 more questions for you. You're a high-level athlete. What was the reaction from yourself and from your boys when Luka got traded to the Lakers for AD?
I mean, shock and awe, and I don't know. I don't know. Like I don't. I mean, I'm like everybody else. In that it's hard to understand. You can kind of explain it away, but fascinated. To be totally honest with you, fascinated.
That's great. Are you going to watch the Super Bowl on Nickelodeon with your boys on Sunday? What's the game plan?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. Dana and I haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
We're absolutely going to watch it on Nickelodeon because we love the Slime Time so much. You've heard me talk about that.
Mhm.
Danner's going to be so excited when I tell him. I haven't told him.
That's great, man. All right, E4 Sports, we're getting into this off-season conditioning program for football. Tell me about your program there at eForce.
Yeah, so many good things going on at eForce. Check out eForceSports.com. It kind of shows all of our offerings. But, I think the best thing young athletes can do, and this is male, female, any sport, is get into our sports performance training programs, which is strength and speed and injury prevention, working on agility, all the things you need to be a great athlete on the court, on the field. And really what it is keeping young athletes healthy. And we have a fantastic group of trainers and coaches that will give each athlete an assessment, a customized plan of where they're at in their athletic journey, and then age-appropriate programs for them to work on throughout the week at our facilities in Beaverton, Milwaukee on the east side. We're up in Vancouver. If you got any friends and family out in Bend, we have a facility now out in Bend. You can see all that at eforcesports.com or email team@eforcesports.com.
Alex, I know you're busy right now. I really appreciate the time. You're a baller, dude. That was a badass Super Bowl conversation. Have fun with the kids on Sunday, and I'll talk to you soon.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Take care.
Dude, appreciate you. Gosh, man. As Sweet Lou would say, that's a good-looking ball player right there. Alex Brink is awesome. I can't wait for this game. I've gone back and forth in my dome over the last couple of weeks, but I arrive at the same conclusion. I agree with everything that Alex said. Saquon Barkley he's nails, and their offensive line is dope. The Eagles are a talented squad. They've got the best roster top down in the NFL. Everyone who covers the league, especially the personnel dudes, they all agree with that. The Eagles have the talent without question to win this game. But I also know that this game's going to be one possession at the end. And I'm sorry, I've seen this before. I know how it's going to go down. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, in combination with Steve Spagnuolo, will make the right call, scheme the right play, and the execution is going to be there. And that's why the Chiefs are going to win and make it 3 straight. There's no question in my mind. I'm not going to go against that. And if you're betting the game and you bet against P. Mahomes, you crazy. You crazy, my man. You crazy. That's how I see it going down. It's annoying, Patrick Mahomes, but the guy's a super stud. A super stud that sounds like a crazy person. Todd Lebo from 810 WHB in Kansas City is going to join the show on Friday. He's down in Nolens right now getting ready for the game, and we'll get his take on what's going to happen. If you want to jump on board, telephone number here at the show is 503-248-0620. You can reach out to me on social at Chad and Rip City or just text me. I don't care. 360-281-5473. Michael Holton's going to join me in studio today at 5:20 for some Holton on Hoops. I like fried chicken. All right, what's up, my friends? Brooke Olzendam is going to join the show tomorrow at 4:20. So tomorrow, trade deadline coming up at noon Pacific. That's tomorrow. Sean Hyken will join me at 3:20. I'll be over at Moda Center doing the show live from Section 330 from 3 until 5. Sean Hyken at 3:20, and then Brooke Olzendam is going to join the show at 4:20. And Joe Cronin's going to have a press conference tomorrow and speak. So we'll see what happens, what shakes out between now and then. So I'm pretty excited to see what the Blazers are able to accomplish or not. Now, what I've been told and continue to be told is that, the Blazers, like any other team, they're looking to make things happen. And the Blazers have some veteran players that they would probably like to move as they continue this pursuit of reshaping the roster. But the real issue is going to be for the majority of teams when you have veteran players with large numbers on their contracts, like that 30-plus million range, it's going to be much harder to move guys. And that's because of the new CBA with this second apron and the tax penalties that are involved. So teams are very cautious, and they're still playing this game of wait and see to gain a better understanding of how things are going to develop. And no one really seems to know, and so that could prevent moves from taking place now, which means we could see a lot more activity during the summertime. Now, I have continued to be told that if the Blazers were to make a move and move out one of their vets at the deadline, the most likely target would be Jeremy Grant. So we shall wait and see how the Blazers approach it and what maneuvers are made. Now, today we saw the Bucks ship out Chris Middleton in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. De'Aaron Fox is already in San Antonio with the Spurs, joined up with Wemby. Love that tandem. De'Aaron Fox is one of my favorite players in the league to watch. I think he's the fastest guy end-to-end in the league with the basketball in his hands. I like him. And obviously, Wemby's a freak of nature. So those two guys together, I hate the Spurs. Love Wemby. Big fan of De'Aaron Fox, but screw San Antonio. They've got the grumpy old man. I don't know. I'm just not a Spurs guy. Let's just put it that way. But I like that tandem, and that's going to be a duo to be reckoned with moving forward into the future. And then, of course, you got the whole Luka in L.A. now with Anthony Davis in Dallas along with Kyrie. There are a couple of other discussions out there surrounding the Luka trade. I mentioned the theory that's out there right now from some people in the Texas area. This idea that the new ownership group, the Adelson Group, they're trying to get things done to open up the gambling market in Texas. And they've got their designs on a casino-style resort involving the Mavs. Well, the theory here is that they're not getting the movement in the Texas legislature that they would like. So the idea here is that they would tank the Mavs and then create a situation where they could make a move to Las Vegas and use the threat of moving the team out of Dallas and out of the state of Texas as a way to gain support from the local politicians. So that's one theory. The other idea, and this is something that my former partner Gavin Dawson has been talking about, who's down in the Dallas area, he wonders if the Adelson Group did a little favor to the NBA by moving Luka to LA. Keep in mind the NBA has been suffering from ratings issues. And Gavin's point is that the superstars in the NBA, the majority of them are not in the right markets right now. Giannis is in Milwaukee, small market. Jokic, the best player in the world, is in Denver. Luka was in Dallas. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's in Oklahoma City. So you have your best stars in smaller market areas. So did the Dallas Mavericks do a favor to the NBA? Did they do a favor to the league by making this move to get Luka in a Laker uniform so that you could guarantee that one of your most prominent franchises is going to be relevant and watchable for years to come because they just got a top 3 player for basically nothing? Again, the crazy talk surrounding the Luka deal makes a lot more sense than the basketball talk. Because I'm telling you right now, there's no way you make that move and then come out and say the things that Nico Harrison said. Well, it makes us a better defensive team, and we got a chance to compete and win a championship right now. Okay. What are you going to do in a couple of years when Kyrie and AD are basically done and you have no young assets to move into the future because you elected to get one first-round pick back along with Anthony Davis? There's no basketball sense behind the move. In fact, it's totally insane. Now, if you're Nico Harrison, look, he is the guy that failed on the Nike pitch to Steph. Like, that was a big mess up on his part, but he's also made some very good moves in Dallas. You know, the Kyrie deal, which has worked out. He made some good deadline moves last year, which helped them get to the NBA Finals. I don't think Nico Harrison is dumb. So I don't think he made the move. I don't think this is a Nico Harrison, we've got to make this move type of deal. Jason Kidd didn't even know about it. I mean, if I'm just reading the tea leaves, my guess is the ownership group came to Nico and said, we're making this move. And it's only going to be the Lakers because they wanted to keep it to one team. They wanted to keep the conversations between Nico and Pelinka to keep it quiet, and they made the move. And so Nico, being the general manager, is going to go out there and just be a shield for the ownership group and say, yeah, this is a good basketball move. You know, we're trying to win now. And we are concerned about Luka being fat and not wanting to work hard. So you go out there and sell it like you believe it because you're taking bullets for the ownership group. That's possible. And then to add into the theory that that the Mavs were doing a fave for the NBA to help get a superstar in a big market like Los Angeles and to help with the rating situation, then Nico has been promised a role in the NBA league office. That's the other theory. So it's either the Adelson group trying to put pressure on the legislator locally so they can get what they want, or it's a conspiracy that the NBA helped facilitate the maneuver to get a big-name player on a big-time franchise to help boost ratings and to have a better distribution around the country of the superstar players instead of all of them being in smaller markets. There you go. That all makes a lot more sense than we want AD and one first-round pick because we're trying to win now. Hey-oh. There you have it. That's the deal. Like I told you earlier this week, here's what I do know. I'm just glad I'm not a Maverick fan because that would stink to high heaven. To know that your favorite player and your franchise player just got dealt for AD, I don't need that in my life. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Michael Holton, Holton on Hoops, coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing. All right, it's now 4 o'clock chat here. What's going on, my friends? The Trailblazers are on fire. They hammered the Pacers last night, 112-89. Scoot and Shaden each scored 17. Grant and Simons combined for 42. Portland with a 28-9 fourth-quarter run to take control. Coach Billups, after the game, talked about being a team that no one wants to play. Portland's won 9 of their last 10. They finish up the 7-game homestand tomorrow night against the Kings. Tip-off from Mode at 7. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5 here on 620 Rip City Radio. Trade deadline is tomorrow at noon. We had another big move today. The Bucks have sent out Chris Middleton to the Wizards in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. And according to reports, Kevin Durant has no interest in a reunion with the Warriors. Super Bowl 59 Sunday in New Orleans. The Chiefs remain All right, I was saying before Shacker cut me off with the sounder that the Chiefs remain a 1.5-point favorite over the Eagles. That game will come up on Sunday. Telephone number here is 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Michael Holton going to stop by for a little Holton on Hoops at 5:20. And I've got some audio from Rob Pelinka and Luka Doncic in regard to the trade that went down. I think we got to listen to a little bit of Luka. We'll get his comments on the commentary around the league about his conditioning, or lack thereof, shall we say. Super Bowl, I told you how I think it's going to go down. Eagles are great. They have the best roster in football. I think this is going to be a one-possession football game, and therefore I lean on the Chiefs with Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve Spagnuolo, because I know that they're going to be well-prepared, they're going to execute, and they always come up with those plays that they need in key situations. That's how it goes down. So I'm looking forward to the matchup. I do think these are the two best teams in football, and I'm happy we got the storyline of the Chiefs in there trying to go for 3 straight, because we've never seen that before, and knowing that we're going to have a team in a position to make that happen on Sunday is going to make the game even that much more entertaining. Let's go out to Tony in Vancouver. Tony, what's up, boss?
It's been a long time, my friend.
I know. It's good to hear from you.
I'm going to be dating myself here, Chad. I've watched every Super Bowl since 1971. I'm 67. That was the year that Baltimore beat the Dallas Cowboys and Roger Staubach. I've watched every Super Bowl but one. I boycotted that Super Bowl. It was the toughest thing I ever had to do in my life, and that was the New England Patriots versus the Rams. The Rams, I thought, were gifted that spot in the Super Bowl and that game in New Orleans, and which I will never understand how that could happen. You know, it wasn't like a play that was away from the play. It was where the ball was going. How can that many referees miss that easy of a call? So I boycotted that Super Bowl. I haven't watched no replays. I haven't watched no highlights. I substituted the Puppy Bowl and the Rifleman for the Super Bowl that year, and it killed me. But I stuck to my guns, and that's the only Super Bowl I have never watched.
So how do you see this game on Sunday playing out?
Oh, it's going to be a battle. I don't know. Kansas City is just ridiculous. You know, even when people say they're down, they win. So how do you bet against a team that keeps winning? Yeah. I mean, I hope Philadelphia wins. I don't like Kansas City, but you know, we've seen this story, and Mahomes seems to find a way of doing things. So I know the officiating is going to be really closely watched. That's all I know. But I think Kansas City will probably win it. So,
well,
what do you think, Chad? Am I wrong?
No, you're right. You're 100% right. I just think it's going to be a one-possession game, and in those spots, I trust Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. It's that simple. I don't need to overthink this. I know how it's going to play out, and so do you. You just laid it out for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I talked to you, Chad. I really miss you, brother.
Oh, I miss you too, man. It's so good to hear your voice. That's Tony in Vancouver. I actually ran into him once over at Carol's Corner in Hazeldale. I went there one morning for breakfast, and as soon as I heard the voice, I was like, oh, my gosh, that's Tony in Vancouver. He's got one of the most distinct voices I have ever found from any listener I've ever had. but that's good people right there. Let's go out and talk to the preacher and see what's cracking with him. Preacher, what's up, man? What's on your mind? Fire away.
Yo, I appreciate the phone call. With the Luka, I've been listening to you all week, if not all, every time. But with the Luka situation, I like your second observation or thought process in regards to the night, or I would say the NBA needing more revenue in regards to viewership, and then putting Luka on the world stage with the team that is the most watched. So if you add that all up, that adds more viewership. So I really think you caught on to something there. I didn't think about anything in regards to Texas, in regards to the casino thing. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I haven't heard that anywhere on any type of streaming or any type of media surface. So that brings a little bit of thought to it. And let me just finish it on a great note. The Blazers are super fun to watch. And I'm with you. In the last how many years, I couldn't even really stare at the screen for too much longer. But honestly, from the beginning of the tip-off to the end of the game, I'm watching all the game, which means this team is doing exactly what it has to do.
There's no question about it, Preacher. Tell Holly I said hi. The Blazers are fun to watch right now. They're a lot of fun to watch, and it's because of the youth and the energy. And they're winning games the right way with defense. They're playing a Chauncey Billups brand of basketball right now, and that's why he's so giddy. It's been fun. It's the best stretch of basketball they've played in 6 years. The last time they won 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 was 6 years ago. But they're doing it with defense. The young guys are emerging, and I'm starting to see the makings of what Joe Cronin's putting together, which is wonderful. It's great. When you draft and develop, or you acquire young players and develop, and they start to win because they're figuring it out, that's a good thing for all of us. I mean, it's got to be celebrated. And Scoot Henderson over the last month, it's like, okay, the light has been flipped on. It's a beautiful thing. Scoot Henderson is getting it done defensively, too. I'm still jealous of his physique. He just turned 21, and he's got the quad development, his shoulder development, he's got the whole package. Very athletic. We just need him to continue to improve as a three-point shooter, so defenses have to respect that and continue to finish better around the rim. But his decision-making, the pace at which he's playing, more confidence, the whole deal. And with Shaedon Sharpe, I mean, the guy's got every tool you need to be successful, and he was great last night. We just need him to be more aggressive. Be aggressive. Be selfish. It's okay to be a little more selfish, Shaedon, because you got the tools to get it done, bro. You don't need to defer to anyone, man. Go out there and do what you do. Like Coach Phillips said, if you can take it over, take it over. He's giving you the green light. You don't have to defer to anyone, all right? But you got to continue to remind the young players about that because, you know, they're worried about the pecking order and the this and the that. He just needs to go out there and he's got that in him. He's got the game. Maybe it's what Coach Phillips said the other night. We need someone, maybe we can hire someone to piss him off before every game because when he gets mad or he gets into it with one of the guys on the other team, he erupts after that. We just need someone to piss him off every night, and he'll be just fine. Let's go out to Victor in Turkey. Victor, welcome to the show. What is on your mind, my friend?
Thank you, Chad. Thanks for your time, man.
You're welcome.
You brought up very important and very important and unique subject earlier. You know, the Blazer, how they structured, they are not dependent on one player.
Yes.
Let me something really important, Chad. You might not agree on that, but you see the Oklahoma City, they rely on two good players, Shea Alexander and Desmond Bain. Without, Desmond right now, I think the last game, I don't know. No, Desmond Bain is in Memphis. But Shea Alexander, they beat the Blazers by 10 points, and the Memphis Grizzlies, they have Ja Morant and Desmond Bain. I watched the last game. Memphis, they beat the other teams without the Ja Morant, but they had Desmond Bain with 25 points. What I'm saying is, a lot of teams, I don't know, maybe there are other teams like Portland, but I don't know any of them. But any team that they have one or two star players, and if they have one star player and he doesn't play like Shea Alexander, if he wouldn't play, I can bet my life that the Blazers would beat the hell out of him. I can bet my life. I mean, nobody can tell me because I'm a sportsman. The second one is the Memphis Grizzlies. Well, Memphis Grizzlies, they have two good players. This one, they're very, 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 very good players. Without both of them, they don't play, they are beatable. But one of them, if they don't play, one of them, they have a chance, you know. But the Blazers is very unique. You know, the Blazers, like Ant Simon, I remember sometimes he didn't play and sometimes he had injury, and a couple of the games before, he had like 8 points. He had like 8 points, if you remember, a couple of games before, and still could Blazer win. So what I'm saying, Blazer is, I think, is the only one. I don't know any other team that without they don't have any stars, you know. Well, I mean, who is a star in the Blazer? Nobody. I mean,
No, I understand what you're talking about, Victor. What he's referring to is the comments that Coach Billups made last night about the versatility, that you can't key in on one guy, and that's why they're having great success. Take a listen to Coach Billups in reference to what Victor in Turkey was talking about. And there you go. And he's right. It's multiple guys stepping up game in and game out to make game-winning plays. And it's been very successful. And it's a lot of fun to watch. The Blazers, I don't know if anyone on the current roster, Scoot, Shaden, will emerge into that alpha. Like, I'm not sure that guy exists on the roster, but I know that the five guys that I've been referencing over the last few weeks, the five young ones, Scoot, Shaden, Klingon, Tumani, and Avdia, that those five right there are phenomenal building blocks. And if they were to get, let's say, Cooper Flagg, and you get the alpha to mix in with that, well, you're cooking with some gasoline then. So we'll see how the trajectory continues for these young guys, but they may not have that alpha yet. And maybe they're still searching for it. But the good thing is they're going to be able to add to what they've got, the young guys, during the course of the summertime, which is awesome. All right, when we come back, we'll hear some comments from Luka Doncic and Rob Pelinka. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. Michael Holton on Hoops. He's going to be in studio at 5:20. All right, people are still trying to make sense of the Luka Doncic trade. He was sent off to Dallas, or was sent off to the Lakers from Dallas in exchange for Anthony Davis and one future first, which is amazing. And Luka, introduced with the Lakers, talked about the whirlwind surrounding this whole situation. Yeah, I'm sure it was a shock for him, being a franchise player and moved out unexpectedly. He also talked about the commentary around his conditioning and, well, or lack thereof. Yeah, so I'm hoping he can use the commentary around his physique to power him to better conditioning. Because the one thing that drives me crazy with any athlete is you get in a position to make a king's ransom to play a kid's game. The number one priority you should have every day is to make sure that you keep your body in the best possible condition so that you can perform at the highest level possible. That means hiring a chef, having the right trainers, understanding your body and what it needs to fuel the fuel that it needs to be able to operate at the highest level, and putting in a certain level of dedication to making sure that when the season hits, you're ready to rock, that you show up to work ready to go. And if you do a better job of keeping your body in the right shape, if you're Luka, you shed some pounds, your conditioning is better, and you start the season, you hit training camp ready to roll instead of showing up overweight and trying to play yourself into shape, then all of a sudden you've got better energy as you get deeper into the season. A part of the greatness of winning an NBA championship is getting through the grind of 82 games and then playing multiple playoff games en route to a title. Part of being great is keeping yourself in top-notch shape so that when you're called upon to do your duty and to lead your franchise as a big-time player, you can do it. And the best athletes that we've seen in the NBA and around sport, these are guys who are not only great at their craft, but they're workout lunatics. And I respect that. Kobe Bryant was a conditioning fool. He always took care of his body, knew what he was putting in his body, trained at all hours, kept himself in shape throughout the offseason, and made sure when the season hit, he was ready to rock. Michael Jordan was the same way. He used to joke about the fact that when he retired and walked away from the game, he was excited about the opportunity to get a beer gut. And what he was saying is that I've been working so long and so hard to stay on top of my body, to stay in the proper condition. It's a grind. And it is. It requires a lot of work. But you know what? When you're in a position to make 50, 60, or in Luka's case, $70 million a year, there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. You're not just an NBA player, Luka. You are a super max player that has an opportunity to make $350 million over 5 years. Whether you want to or not, you're in a position to where more is expected from you because you're not just a player. You're a franchise cornerstone that's being paid more money than anybody else on the team and basically more than anyone else in the league. So there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. And part of that as a pro athlete is to make sure that your body is in tip-top shape. And if you don't know what you need to do and the steps that are necessary to get yourself in the best shape, hire the right people. You've got the resources to have anybody you want, the best of the best. And they can work with you so that you can develop that lifestyle and that work habit to be able to keep yourself in the best shape. And that's the part that frustrates me with Luka or any other athlete we've seen that's great, but isn't quite at the level they could be because they don't keep themselves in the right condition. Now, look, I still think Luka's great, and I would not have traded him. It's insane to do that because he's such a talent. But, he does need to crank it up several notches in that department because of who he is and how much he stands to make. There's responsibility with that. When you take on certain roles and you make a certain number of dollars with whatever company you work for, as you continue to grow, more responsibility is going to come. More is going to be expected from you. So come on, Luka. Step it up, my man. Drop a few LBs, become quicker on your feet, and put your body in a position to withhold the rigors of the NBA schedule so at the end of the season you're not gassed. Because by nature, he's going to have a heavy workload. A heavy workload because his usage rate's off the charts. And he's a big-time clutch player, and he can do so many great things, but he could be better if he ramped up his conditioning. The problem is that do you have the desire to do that? Because no one can make you. That's something that has to come from within. With holding, making better eating choices, staying on a regimen to keep yourself in shape, like that requires an inner desire. Because if you don't want that yourself, it's going to be very hard to get that. But the good thing is he's young, and we've learned from a lot of players throughout the course of time that when they're young, coming out of college, they jump in the NBA. They don't know all of the ins and outs of how to care for your body. So maybe being around someone like LeBron, who is another one of those guys who I marvel at his conditioning and the shape that he's in at his age, maybe that's something that Luka can benefit from. Now, Rob Pelinka, as he should be, he's very happy about having Luka, and apparently Jeannie Buss is as well. Yeah, you think? They just robbed the Mavericks blind of Luka Doncic. I would imagine the owner of the Lakers, Jeannie Buss, is very excited about that. And Rob Pelinka as well. They robbed him blind. They got Luka for one future first and Anthony Davis. And they didn't have to give up anything. To get a player like Luka, if there was a bidding war, we're talking about multiple firsts. Multiple. And the Mavericks elected to do the deal. So I really believe that Nico Harrison, this was not his decision. I refuse to believe that he would actually make that move and think it's a good idea. He was being told by ownership, we need to make this move. Now, we can discuss the theories as to the motivations behind the ownership group, the Adelson family, and why they would do such a bad move. That's where the fun discussion's at, where we can get our tinfoil caps on and start talking about all the conspiracy theories. But Nico Harrison's not making the move unless ownership comes to him and says, we're making the move with the Lakers. Yeah, but you realize that we should probably try and get about 7 first-rounders, right? Or if we want Anthony Davis, we should probably try and get like 4 firsts back along with AD. I don't care. Just make the move. And then in that role as general manager, you have to make the move. You have to do what your bosses tell you to do. And sometimes that means doing something that you don't agree with, but your job is to go out there and sell it and then shield the ownership group from, the bullets, the strays that are going to fly your way for such a bad idea, a bad move. Now, like I mentioned before, the 2 conspiracy theories, let me grab my tinfoil cap. And I think there is some credence to this potentially, but there are some attorneys down in Texas who are suggesting that the Adelson family is trying to tank the Mavs to put pressure on the local politicians so they can open up their new gambling market down there in Texas and have this casino-style resort. They're trying to get things done, but they're not getting the support locally they need. So that's one theory. They're going to tank the Mavs and try to move them to Vegas and use that as pressure to get what they want from the politicians. The other one is a league-wide idea that with the ratings being down and the majority of your superstars in small markets like Giannis in Milwaukee, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City, Luka in Dallas, that you ask Dallas to take one for the team and move Luka to the market in L.A. so that you have one of your best franchises with a big-time superstar, top 3 in the league, and it will help with TV ratings. And then as a little kicker, Nico Harrison will eventually take a job with the league office. There you go. Those are the 2 theories that are floating around in the Texas area. It's crazy because the basketball side doesn't make sense. The Mavericks are screwed now. They're not going to win a championship with AD. And Nico was selling it like he really believed it, too. That was impressive. Oh, no, we're a better team now. We have a chance to go out and compete and win a championship. Okay, good luck with that. Good luck with rebuilding your team after, like in 2 years when, Kyrie, assuming he doesn't go AWOL again, and AD is broke down. Good luck trying to rebuild your team with that one future first you got in return. And then what's really scary, and this is going to be the fascinating part to watch, what if Luka does get ripped? What if he drops like 100 pounds or 60 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever, and he shows up to camp like in tip-top shape, shirtless, with an 8-pack, and he's out there just bawling out of his mind? And then Maverick fans will be even more angry. But I am frustrated with Luka or any athlete that doesn't keep themselves in the best possible condition. But my point is with Luka, like, it doesn't matter. He was out there bawling. His numbers are ridiculous, like 28, 8, and 8. His first 7 years in the league has been as good of a start as anyone in league history. You just don't move on from dudes like that. And yes, I know his defense is not top-notch. I know that his defense was on display in the finals, and it was very bad. But he still had the ability to put a team on his back and carry them to a championship. That's how good he is. So I'm fascinated by the whole thing. And I think here in Portland, we're just mad that the Lakers got rich again. That's the part that's annoying, that they are the team that always seems to pull the rabbit out of their hat when they need it most. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like, great, the Lakers again. It was Wilt, and it was Kareem, and somehow they came up with that crafty 25-year contract for Magic initially when he came into the league. Then they got Shaq to come to L.A. from Orlando. And then they stole Kobe Bryant because Jerry West is smarter than everyone else from Charlotte. And then when Kobe threatened to walk and asked to be traded, they suddenly got Pau Gasol for nothing from Memphis. And it's just stuff like that. We're like, come on, man. Why does it always happen to them? How can one franchise have the greatest fortune ever? That's what they do, though. But I like Jeannie Buss. I'm down with Jeannie. And so I want good things for her. So nice work, Jeannie. Good work. Way to get it done, Jeannie. All right, the Trailblazers, don't look now, but they've won 9 out of 10. It's pretty impressive. And they just absolutely crushed the Pacers last night in that fourth quarter. It was like a wave of emotion with the 28-9 run in the fourth quarter. And they really locked them up defensively. That's one of the best offensive teams in the NBA that has no issue nightly getting up threes. They had issues last night. They couldn't get open looks. The Blazers were harassing them. It was a Chauncey Billups style game because Portland did it with defense. Almost 30 points off turnovers. They put pressure throughout the game on their key players, and it was relentless the way Portland just continued to attack them with physical play. I like tough basketball teams, and right now Portland is a very tough basketball team. And this infusion of youth that we're seeing from the young guys is really powering them right now. And I'm excited about it. Love watching it. And Coach Billups is very happy with this group right now. And he talked about being a team that no one wants to play. Love this. No question. Best stretch of basketball in 6 years for the Blazers. Victor in Turkey called in to talk about the versatility. Different guys on different nights. And that's what's making them tough to guard right now. All right, check this out. These numbers are impressive. And this is why the winning streak that they're on right now is not a fluke. It's not like one player getting red hot and making a bunch of shots. Over the last 10 basketball games, the Blazers are 9-1. That's tied for first in the NBA. During that stretch, the Blazers are number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating, number 1 in opponent field goal percentage, number 1 in opponent points per game, number 1 in opponent points in the paint, and number 1 in opponent fast break points. They are number 1 in 6 separate defensive categories. Now, how long have I begged and you begged, and we've wanted this type of effort defensively from this group for years? You know, the problem is they didn't have the personnel to be a great defensive team. But now, when they take the floor, and you've got Tamani Kamara, and you've got Denny Avdia, or you have Robert Williams, or you've got Jeremy Grant, all of a sudden they've got a long and athletic group that can get up in your business. And now we're seeing Scoot Henderson make strides defensively. Shaden Sharp, when engaged, can be active with his length and athleticism. They have multiple guys out there who are getting after it defensively, and they're buying in, and they're playing for one another, and they're defending, and they're guarding hard. That's amazing. Number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating, number 1 in opponent effective field goal percentage, number 1 in opponent points per game, number 1 in opponent points in the paint, and number 1 in opponent fast break points. I mean, that's the way you want to play. That's winning games the right way. That's doing it with defense. That's doing it with effort, with energy. They're locked in. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the year? I don't know. But I'm anxious to see, now that they're locked in and playing games the right way and getting it done defensively, how much is this going to help them when they go out on the road? Because Chauncey's right. When you defend like this and you rebound like we saw last night or over the last week, you can cause problems for anybody in the NBA. And the best part is it's the youth that's powering this. They're getting some good veteran play. We saw it from DeAndre Ayton. We've seen it from Grant in spots and from Simons. But the majority of the energy is coming from their young guys, namely Avdia, Kamara, Scoot, and Shaden. And then, you know, with Klingon, he hasn't played as many minutes this year as a rookie, but the minutes he has played, he's been very productive with the shot blocking, knowing where to be, the rebounding. That's the part that's exciting. The youth, those guys are getting it done. But I love the defense, and now we're starting to see everything come together for Coach Billups because they're playing the way that he wants them to. And they're showing toughness the way that he would have played the game. And there's nothing I love more than teams getting frustrated because it's just relentless pressure in their grill. They hate that. And when you have guys like Tamani Kamara, and I really believe this, Avdia and Kamara are nonstop go, go, go on both ends. And when you have that in those two guys, they're not just doing it in games, but think about the atmosphere they bring to the practice time because they're bringing that same type of intensity on the practice floor, challenging their teammates. And when other guys see someone sacrifice like that, it becomes very contagious because other guys know it's like, I got to step my game up because these guys are out there balling out of their backside. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive Chad doing here. Michael Holton's coming up in studio at 5:20 for Holton on Hoops. All right, trade deadline now less than 24 hours away. We heard from Luka. We haven't heard from Anthony Davis. Here he is on his reaction to being dealt to Dallas.
I was shocked.
Everyone else?
Like I said, I didn't know. I was actually at home about to watch a movie with my wife and got the phone call. So I had no idea. I just sent the team a text about congratulations on the win against the Knicks, big win, and then looking forward to Tuesday's game against the Clippers as far as standing purposes. And then found out like an hour later I was no longer with the team. So I was in shock, obviously. Had no idea that it was happening. But now it's I'm kind of over it and just kind of get ready to play with Dallas.
I do not believe that Anthony Davis was unaware he was about to be dealt. He or LeBron. There's no way I buy that. Not with how involved Clutch is in all the big-time situations. It's just one of those things where you hear it and you're like, that doesn't pass the sniff test. Not buying it, but I like Anthony Davis a lot. I wouldn't have traded him for Luka or traded Luka for him, but I do like Anthony Davis. The problem is that he doesn't move like he used to, and he's in his 30s, and how much high-level basketball does he have left? I think that's a very good question. Elsewhere, Patrick Mahomes, everyone's being asked about it. He shared his thoughts on Luka being dealt.
Man, it's tough, because I feel like I've watched Luka since he was 18 years old. I remember going to a practice, and it was Dirk and Luka, and seeing his maturation and how great of a basketball player he's became has been fun to watch. And as a Dallas fan, it hurts me, but I'm happy for him that he's going to be able to go out there and be in L.A. and get to try to achieve his dream of winning a championship. But he did so much, not only for the basketball team, but for the city of Dallas. So I'll always be appreciative of those years. But I'm excited for the Mavericks moving forward and the guys that they brought in.
All right, there's Patrick Mahomes. He was also shared his thoughts or was asked about the Chiefs being villains.
I don't even think it's embracing being the villains. We embrace who we are, and we believe we play the game the right way. We believe that we play with a lot of heart and a lot of passion for the game. And then we win football games. And if winning football games makes you a villain, we're going to keep going out there and doing it.
All right, there you go, Patrick Mahomes. I don't think they're villains. I just think people are annoyed that they win all the time. And when you win all the time and people believe that you get the benefit of the doubt from the officials, then people are going to start to hate on you. But basically because you win all the time. Dynasties, we watch them because you either love them or you hate them. And this Chiefs team is a dynasty. They're on the verge of winning 3 consecutive Super Bowls. And I've told you where I come from on this. I'm a Bronco fan, so the Chiefs are in the same division. I don't hate the Chiefs like I do the Raiders. I have a healthy respect for Kansas City. Well-run organization. They have been for a very long time, and they've had some great, great players over the years. And they've had some good coaches, and their teams play the right way and compete. And I respect that. It's been a good rival to the Broncos for years. And now they just happen to be unstoppable because they've got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. When you get a quarterback like that, man, the rest is history. He's just that good. Patrick Mahomes is a super stud. And if I were a betting man, I'm putting my money on the Chiefs. Why would you bet against that? Why would you bet against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in that situation? Because you know it's going to be a tight ball game. And you know who executes better than anyone in those clutch situations. And Alex brought that up too. Part of the reason why Mahomes is so good in those, big moments when teams throw extra guys at him and they bring the blitz, it's because he competes against the best blitzing coordinator in football every day in practice. And when you compete against that type of scheme and those type of players, you get better because of it. Just like we were talking about Avdia and Kamara. When you have guys like that coming to practice looking to ball out and attack, you get better because of it. And Patrick Mahomes is no different. And he gets a chance to see what Spagnuolo throws at him, and it prepares him for those big game moments. He's that good. And he's cool, too, and which is annoying. It'd be much easier with these guys who just kill your team all the time if they were a-holes and you could just hate on them in your mind. But Patrick Mahomes is a good dude, good leader, great player. He's great in the community, and he's already a legend. And arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. And his career is nowhere near done. It's wild what he's been able to accomplish. 7 straight AFC title games and a chance to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. That is big time production. And for Jalen Hurts, he's been great. And he's one of those guys that overcomes. And he has throughout the course of his career, both college and the NFL. You get this win, you get over on Patrick Mahomes, and you get your first championship. You already become a legend in Philly forever, and you continue to add to what you've been able to do thus far in your career. He got them to a Super Bowl, nearly got over on Mahomes, and now he's back again. Second Super Bowl in 3 years. He's got a chance to win it. And if you dethrone the Chiefs and prevent them from getting to 3 straight, that is a nice little notch to have on the belt. So it's going to be good. I think Alex said it, and I think it's probably true. The two things to watch in this game in terms of matchup. Number one, the Eagles' offensive line and their running scheme against the defense in front of the Chiefs. Saquon Barkley is good enough to have a monster game and take over the game and lead the Eagles to a championship. And that type of balance and dominance with the ground game could open things up for Jalen Hurts. So keep an eye on the matchup between that Chiefs defensive front against the Eagles offensive line in the run game. But after that, and I think Alex is dead on, Jalen Hurts, as good as he is, he's deadly in the run game, and they know how to scheme it up and put him in a position to have success. There will come stretches during the game where he is going to have to drop back and move the chains through the air with his arm. And that means making the right decision under pressure for big plays. We know Mahomes is going to do it, but in order for the Eagles to win, there's going to come a point where Hurts is going to have to make those plays to get over and get the job done. That's the bottom line. Last year, Brock Purdy couldn't do it, but Hurts is going to have to do that. And will he rise up and be able to execute like that in those moments? That's what it's going to come down to. So keep an eye on the defensive front for Kansas City up against that offensive front for Philly in the run game. Can the Chiefs contain it? And then Jalen Hurts. When he needs to, can he move the chains through the air with his arm? I expect him to have some big plays in the game. I just don't know if he's going to have enough. And Kansas City, the other thing that makes them really good, and there's this common denominator with good teams, you know, especially the really good NFL teams that win championships, multiple championships, they don't usually make the big mistake in key moments, meaning they don't put the ball on the ground, they don't throw the interception, they don't have the special teams gaffe, they don't screw it up. You know, part of winning a championship is just not beating yourself. You know, games are usually lost more than they are won. And that means the teams that are sound in all three phases and don't turn it over, don't make the big mistake, those are the ones who are usually in a position to win. Because when you turn it over or you give up the big return in special teams, you're working with a short field, you're up against it, and that's where the mistakes happen. And then good teams cash in. If you give the Chiefs a short field, they're going to score. Just like the Bills, when they didn't convert on the fourth down because of the spot or whatever you want to call it, what'd they do? They went down and took advantage, scored, and got the 2-point conversion. And all of a sudden, they're in control of the game. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Michael Holton's coming up at 5:20. I appreciate your time on this Wednesday. Blazers back in action tomorrow. They finish up the 7-game homestand against the Sacramento Kings following the trade deadline, which is coming up tomorrow at noon. And our coverage will start with Blazers game day at 5. I'll have the Rip City Drive live at 3. Sean Hyken will join me at 3:20 tomorrow. Brooke Olsendam will stop by at 4:20. All right, what's going on? It's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. Super Bowl 59 coming up on Sunday down in New Orleans. The Chiefs trying to become the first team to win 3 straight Super Bowls. They're favored by 1.5. That game will kick off at 3:30. It's on Fox. A rematch of the game we saw 2 years ago between Philly and Kansas City. NBA trade deadline's coming up tomorrow at noon. The big move today, the Bucks have sent Chris Middleton to the Wizards in exchange for Kyle Kuzma. And according to reports, Kevin Durant has no interest in a reunion with the Warriors. Trailblazers on fire. Hammered the Pacers last night. Scoot and Shaden each with 17. Grant and Simons combined for 42. Portland used a 28-9 fourth quarter run to take control of the game. Blazers have won 9 of their last 10. They finish up the 7-game homestand tomorrow night against the Kings. Tip-off from Moda at 7. Chris Burkhardt will have game day at 5. I will kick off the Rip City Drive from Moda at 3 o'clock. All right, if you want to jump on board, you can hit me up at 503-248-0620. Michael Holton is going to stop by here at 5:20. He'll join me in studio for some Holton on Hoops. I'm excited to talk with him. I'll ask him about something he was talking about during one of the commercial breaks during the broadcast last night. And I was asking about the defense. I'm like, it's so legit. Like, I am seeing what I'm seeing, right? And he goes, they've improved in every aspect of their defense, which is impressive. So I want to know, how that is and what he's seen and how, they've gotten into a position where they've won 9 out of 10, but doing it the right way. And like I mentioned before, number 1 in 6 separate defensive categories during this stretch where they've been on fire. It's also the biggest winning stretch they've had since dating back to 2019. And the young players, how have we seen this development? What's been the key with Coach Phillips and his staff to get them to that point? So credit to Coach Phillips and his staff. I think right now what I'm seeing with this team is, the energy that they're playing with. There's a vibe around this group during this stretch. And what's most exciting to me is that it's coming from the young players, from the youth. They have 5 guys right now that I think you can look at and say, okay, those guys are a part of the future. And they're going to add to that group during the summertime, with the draft. So you have Scoot and Shaden, who are making progress. Scoot Henderson over the last month is playing the best stretch of basketball in his young career. He just turned 21 this week, and we're not just seeing better offense, but he's engaged defensively and utilizing his strength and his athleticism. But on offense, making more shots, better decision-making, fewer turnovers, and a much better job of finishing. Now with Shaden, I thought he was great last night. The only question mark I have with Shaden is why he continues to defer at times. He's got the ability to take over games, and I'm just hoping that he'll be less passive and more aggressive as we continue to move forward. And I think that will help because he's getting encouragement, from the coaching staff and his teammates to continue to look to be aggressive, which is critical. Now with Klingon, he's played, fewer minutes throughout the course of the year because he's a rookie. Last couple of games, fouls have been an issue for him. But for the most part, great rebounder, great shot blocker, been very productive, and shown great flashes as a rook. Being in the right place, knowing what to do, and going out there and playing with toughness. He provides toughness and brings that to the team. Now, the 2 forwards are off the charts. I don't know what to say about Tamani Kamara. He's already one of the best defenders in the entire league. We're seeing improvements on offense, especially from downtown. That recent piece by Jason Quick, getting input from other players around the league in the opposing locker room on the way he approaches the game, the way he attacks, the way he defends, the way he talks to you while he's defending you, willing to go full court for a full 48 minutes. He is psychotic, and I love it. He's that good. He is a awesome defender. And what I like about Tamani, he's not a guy that's just going to settle for being great on one end of the floor. He does not want to be known as a great defender and an offensive liability. He does not want to become the guy that you don't put a person on because you're not worried about him stepping up and putting up a three-point shot. He doesn't want to be that guy. And so his work ethic, his determination, like he is the direct extension of Coach Billups with his mentality, with his defense, the way he plays, his length. He's great. And I didn't realize until the piece from Quick how much he likes to let his opponents know how much he enjoys defending them, his confidence. And then you got Denny Avdia, who got off to a bit of a slow start and then just has gradually gotten better and better as the years gone along. He's aggressive like Kamara. He can play on both ends. He's a shot maker. He's a creator. And what we're seeing right now is, one, he loves to push the tempo, and he's a much more physical player than you realize. He gets you out of position. He uses his body to hammer you and then gets right at the rim. He's been terrific on drives. And he's a good passer. And Coach trusts him and has given him more and more responsibility as the season's gone along. And his teammates like him. And he's become more of a vocal leader. He's my favorite guy on the team. I just like him, and I like watching him play. But Tamani and Denny are great because they do everything. I like all-around players. I like guys who are solid on both ends. Those are my type of guys who can get you a bucket, but at the same time, they can lock you down, who are willing to sacrifice and play with energy and defend. And so we're getting this from all the young guys, and then you sprinkle in the veteran presence of Grant, or maybe it's Robert Williams on one night, Anthony Simons. And so you're getting this group where we're seeing individual improvement, but now as a group, they're learning how to play together. And what's the result? Great defense, winning streak, good basketball. And that energy and that vibe that you're seeing at the arena right now, I've had so many people reach out to me to say, man, this is fun. And it is. You know why? Because it's the type of team that we fall in love with here in this town. Teams that have grit, toughness, and play with a certain energy and get after it. And when you do that in this town, we will applaud you and we'll support you because that's the way basketball should be played. So that's what I love about the winning streak is they're doing it the right way with defense number one, scrapping, rebounding, and they're hitting you with multiple guys who are doing game-winning type plays on the floor. So that's really good. But the winning's not the most important thing. The winning streak is fun. It's great. But the most important thing to take away from the winning streak is that the young players are developing nicely. So regardless of whether they win these games or not, seeing the individual improvement, seeing the way that they're learning to play the game the right way, and that they're taking what the coaching staff is giving them and applying it on the floor and executing, that shows the growth and development. And that, again, that goes back to the most important goal throughout the course of the entire year, player development. What were the most two important things? Player development and acquisition of young assets via draft picks or players. That's it. That's the most important thing. And that's what they've been doing. So I'm excited about that. Let's go out to the phones. I was actually thinking about this guy yesterday because I have not heard from him in quite some time. And I'm happy to know that he's on the phones because that means he's not dead. Raider Mike. What's up, Raider Mike? It's great to hear your voice. I was actually legitimately concerned about you because I had not heard from you and I was going to reach out to you directly. What's up?
I'm a cockroach, dude. You can't kill me. Nuclear war. Bring it, baby.
Are you still down in Georgia?
No, I just closed out Appling County, Georgia. What a godforsaken place. God, not one bar within 70 miles. Had to go to Savannah to sing. Blew my vocal cords out. That's why I'm a little off right now. And then I got reassigned, clean up in Boone. Do you know where Boone is, Chad?
No.
Boone, North Carolina?
I do not. I've never been to Boone, North Carolina. In fact, I've never been to the Carolinas, my friend.
Dude, this place is gorgeous. That's why I picked it. One, my old bandmates, 2 hours away, Knoxville. Next, my dad and my brothers and sisters, right there, 4.5 hours. Anyway, it's a beautiful Blue Ridge scope.
How's the eye candy in North Carolina?
State. It's just, well, it's dead now. Everything's dead. There's nothing on the trees. But when this place blooms, man, it's going to be, they're telling me 2-year job here. I'm like, no, I got to take a break.
No, dude, I'm glad you're okay.
I got to go play golf with Chad.
No, seriously, Raider Mike, it's great to hear your voice, man. I'm just glad you're good, dude. I'm glad.
Dude, I might move here permanently. I'm sick of Portland and its antics. I'll always love my Blazers.
Good.
You know that.
Of course.
And your boy, who was I talking to before you? Was that Mikey?
Yeah, it's Mike Shacker.
It is Shaq.
Yeah.
Well, Portland A's sounds really nice if he's serious. I would much rather have them in Portland than Vegas.
You should travel
That's
down.
what he was hitting at.
I want you to do a road trip to Sacramento to watch him play.
Oh, dude, that's on the agenda because I am going to come west. You're not going to make me do a year and a half without a break. 4 or 5 months once Portland's all green and we can go out to that country club in Forest Grove and slam things.
Huh.
No, it's all good, man. I just want to come and say I still hate the Muppet King. I want him to die on the field during the Super Bowl.
Well, prepare yourself because you and I both know they're about to win another championship. It's going to happen.
You know how much it's going to hurt? You know how much that's going to hurt.
I know.
God.
Yeah.
Stop them, Billy. Saquon, come down. Let the gods thunder through your legs.
Well, you know what I'm going to do?
Run Chris over.
I've got a present for you. Since you called in, and I'm glad that you're alive, we can listen to the Muppet King together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nice to hear from Raider Mike. I was legitimately concerned. And by the way, Raider Mike, congrats on getting Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator. It's too bad you don't have a quarterback, but whatever. And you have a better coach now, Pete Carroll. He actually went through an entire call and didn't mention a darn thing about the Raiders with Pete Carroll as head coach. Let's go out to Brian in Northwest. Brian, what's up, my friend? Welcome to the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind?
You know, I've been watching the Blazers, and it's been fun to watch this last couple weeks. You know, it's interesting because this team now, and I've thought this for about a month, I've thought they've had enough talent on this team that they shouldn't tank. They should try to win. Because, first of all, they're the tallest team in the league. They're the second youngest team in the league. And quite frankly, they're going to be very, very tough to beat now that they're playing together. And now that Scoot, who I called in last year, and I was hard on Scoot. I got to be very candid. I didn't think he was going to make it. Mentally, he was struggling. But I'm very impressed how he has got his feet back underneath him, and he's seeing the game. The game slowed down. And by him being able to hit his shot and guys having to come out on him, and now he can go right by them, that has changed. And if you look how deep Kamara, Dendy, Brandt, Simmons, they don't need to trade anybody. They just need to keep this team healthy because they're going to be very, very hard to beat. With Ayton in the middle playing like he is, and then Klingon and Williams to be able to come in and support him, and with all the talent they have, they're going to be very tough to beat. Mark my words, the Blazers, I think, are on something here, and it's just fun to see. It's been a long time.
Oh, you're right, man. I appreciate the call, Brian. They are. It's a lot of fun to see. And he's right about Scoot. And I'm happy for Scoot because I really like him. He's got a good attitude. He works hard. You talk to anyone around the team, his work ethic is there. So to see it finally starting to click and see the game come together for him where he can really utilize that athleticism, man, it's fun. All right, we'll come back. And then Michael Holton going to join me in studio for some Holton on Hoops, and we'll get his take on what he's seeing defensively. Again, number one in 6 separate defensive categories over this stretch where they won 9 out of 10. We'll talk to Michael Holton next here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Holton on Hoops. My man Michael Holton's back in studio. Great to see you, my friend. And here, this is great news. We just got breaking news out of the NBA from Shams Charania. The Miami Heat are finalizing a deal to send Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick. What's your first take on that maneuver, Michael?
Saw it coming. I mean, we knew Jimmy had to land somewhere.
Yeah.
And Golden State was in the market for more star power to join Steph Curry and Draymond Green. So not surprised. Just at first glance, having not really peeled it back and looked at it, you know, it always amazes me when there's so many assets that change hands for a player.
Yeah.
And then you look at other deals where less assets change hands for an equally or more valuable player, a la Luka Doncic. So, you know, I don't understand the level in which some of these deals happen, but, you know, personnel changes are part of the league.
If Jimmy's engaged and focused the rest of the way, how much could he help Golden State with that mix, with Draymond and Steph?
Well, he can help them a lot because he takes up a lot of the oxygen in terms of the ability to score in isolation, the ability to put pressure on the defense, the ability to defend.
Yeah.
You know, when you start talking about, you know, playoffs and deep runs and pursuing championships, you know, you got to have all of those bases covered.
All right, let's touch on a few of these that have gone down. Today, Chris Middleton moved from the Bucks to the Wizards in exchange for Kyle Kuzma.
I think that's a good deal for the Bucks. I think Chris Middleton has still got a lot of gas in the tank, but I think Kuzma has the type of motor to join Dame and Giannis and take some of the pressure off, so to speak.
Yeah, and pressure off meaning he can be a shot creator on his own, right?
Exactly, and I think the Bucks will benefit from that. Dame and Giannis are, you know, probably the best 1-2 punch in today's NBA. You know, but when you're talking championship, you know, I don't get caught up in you got to have a third this or a third that, but, you know, the more bases you can cover, the better off your chances are going to be.
All right, speaking of championship, are you buying what Nico Harrison is selling, that Dallas, with the addition of AD this year and being better defensively, that they can go out and compete for a championship in the West?
Yes, and I want to rewind the Dallas clock back a little bit. There's just so many opinions about what's going on there. You know, I think you can make a case that nobody expected Dallas to do what they did a year ago in making it to the finals.
True.
But now that's where the bar is set with Dallas. And
Yeah.
so now you have this trade, and anything less than that makes the trade not a good trade. I don't know that I buy that frame on the picture.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think AD is the complementary piece for Kyrie and Dallas the way they're currently constructed to be able to do that.
Yeah, because they're going to have a lot of length and size that can be difficult to deal with in a 7-game series.
Yeah, and you know, it's 6 on one hand, half a dozen on the other. I mean, Luka is one of the league's best players. I mean, he's probably the most difficult one-on-one matchup in today's NBA. And he has the ability to also pass the basketball, drive the basketball, play make. I mean, there's just so many things that he does. But some of those things that he does took away from some of the things that the other players can do. And I think we'll see that in the reconstructed Dallas Maverick team.
All right, the other pairing, and we're seeing it right now on TV with the Spurs and the Hawks. How do you like the matchup with De'Aaron Fox and Wemby now?
Huge. I think they have the potential to quickly move to the top of the pile in terms of the best tandem in the league next to Giannis and Dame. I mean, De'Aaron Fox really hadn't had the opportunity to play with somebody like Wemby, who has, right, other than Chris Paul. But De'Aaron Fox has speed, quickness, change of pace, change of direction. He can stretch the defense, so he can do a lot of things. You know, Wemby is still, you know, an anomaly in terms of, I mean, he's shooting all these threes. He puts the ball on the floor. He doesn't play like a traditional center by any stretch of the imagination. So it'll be interesting to see what the chemistry of the Spurs now looks like.
Michael Holton on Hoops. He's in studio hanging out with me right now. The Trailblazers, over their last 10 games, they've won 9 of them. Number 1 in defensive rating, number 1 in net rating, and number 6 in offense. You told me last night as we were talking during the game that their defensive improvement is impressive because it's not just one area, but it's multiple areas. What are you seeing from them defensively that's allowed them to go on this tear where they've won 9 of 10?
Well, they're just so locked in, and it's such an overused term. When I say they're so locked in, Doesn't matter if they're playing man, playing zone, if they're blitzing the pick and roll, if they're not. They're just doing it with a high level of energy, connectedness, and effectiveness. And everybody is participating in rebounding. I'm seeing Jeremy Grant go after rebounds with a level of energy that I hadn't really seen Jeremy Grant pursue rebounds in a Blazer uniform. And you can start going down the line, seeing the progress, the next level engagement of all of the Blazer players. I mean, look at Shaden Sharp now on the defensive end. Look at Scoot, physical without fouling. I mean, you can start to look at the individual accolades, but then the connectedness collectively has just been special.
How does that happen? How does that come together where you get the connectedness that we're seeing? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's hard for me to put into words, but when I watched them play over the last month, the energy and vibe with that group when they play together on the floor, it's quite evident, and it's resulting in production.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And it's at that moment that the student will realize that the teacher was always there.
Yeah.
I think Chauncey and his staff have been preaching the same thing, right? And I think guys have heard it, and they've tried it, right? I don't think they have committed holistically to it.
Yeah.
And you see now what it looks like when they do. And usually the change occurs when veteran leadership steps in and steps up. And I think two people wear that hat on this team. One is Denny Avia by what he does on the floor.
Yes.
And two is DeAndre Ayton. And I think that's the one that is kind of wasn't expected. DeAndre Ayton, strikes me as a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, nice guy, fun guy to be around, very talented, very skilled. I didn't know that he would emerge as a leader, a vocal leader, a cheerleader, a guy really rallying the troops like he has.
Yeah, it's been pretty nice. The part that's exciting to me, aside from the wins, is the growth of the young players, and we can talk about each of them. But with Scoot Henderson, I was talking with Joe Cronin a couple of nights ago before the game, and we were just talking about this recent stretch where he's played so well. And Joe was quick to point out that he's been impressed by his defense. And we're seeing an activity level from Scoot on both ends that he hasn't had before, but it's showing up defensively too.
Well, to me, Scoot's one of those players where his defense frees up his offense. When Scoot locks in defensively, picks up the ball full court, negotiates screens, gets in a couple of, run-ins with, guys and gets his competitive juices flowing on the defensive end, he plays with a lot more poise and relaxation on the offensive end.
No question. What do you think about Shaden's response since Coach Wells moved him to the bench because he was looking more from him defensively?
I think, he's handled it very professionally. I think it mirrors what happened when Denny Avia came out of the lineup earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Denny Avia came out of the lineup, and he just played looser off the bench. I mean, not that he pressed as a starter, but there was a change coming off the bench, and it was noticeable that he just was at peace with his game. He just had a rhythm to him, and I see the same thing with Scoot. When Scoot comes in now, he's just like, okay, I'm here. Let me see, who's on me, who am I on? Okay, let's go, and he's just really finding a comfort zone.
Yeah, it's fun when you see a young guy go through some of the early career struggles, and then all of a sudden it's like the light bulb comes on, and we're seeing that switch with Scoot, where I see the same thing, where the comfort level in which he's operating on the floor now, you can see it.
Yeah, and I like when a basketball player experiences adversity.
Mm-hmm.
What gets injured, comes back, or gets benched, and usually if it's the you come out of the lineup type of adversity, nobody likes to say it, but you value and appreciate every minute differently when you get back on the floor.
Yeah, there's no question about it. In fact, 3 different players who have joined your broadcast after games recently has been Tamani, Robert Williams, and Denny Avdia, and they've all spoke about the same thing, that early season adversity that they went through, where it forced them to have tough conversations and kind of work through that together. They all point to that as part of the reason as to why they're at where they're at now. So it kind of lends to what you were just talking about.
Yeah, and it speaks to the culture of the team. I mean, you got to give Chauncey and his staff and the organization credit that they've put their arms around this group in such a way that has facilitated this type of communication. You go back to, I think, the trade deadline a year ago. I remember Joe Cronin saying something about really wanting to see this group stay together longer, want to see, what we have.
Yeah.
Well, now we see what we have, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a really positive thing. There's a few ways you get better in the NBA, right? Through the draft, through free agency, and through organic growth.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the organic growth part of this process.
Yeah, it's really cool. The other part that was nice about the game last night, and you commented on this as well, but the certain level of physicality they played with that frustrated the Pacers. I like teams that are tough, and they showed some toughness, some physicality last night that I don't think Indiana really wanted a part of on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, and, so much attention is deserved because we can go back a couple of games, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but, they started the game off by trying to foul Denny Avia hard, right? They were like, wait, I was like, oh, no, they're barking up the wrong tree, right?
Yeah.
And Denny's comment was, boy, that made me smile. Well, the Pacers did the same thing.
Yeah.
They started the game by trying to push first and knock the Trailblazers off, and the Blazers are looking at them like, we're built for this.
Yeah. No, it's been a lot of fun to watch. I love seeing the guys go out there and compete at that type of level. Coach Billups, you going back to the development piece, the fans have their take on Billups. Some, support him, some don't or whatever. I don't even care about that. But I do think that if you're going to criticize for certain things, you've got to be willing to give props. And what do you think it is specifically that he and his staff have done that have allowed for the young guys to grow the way that they have? Because we're seeing progress there, which is a good thing.
I think they've been honest with him, and honesty is not always what coaches lead with, particularly at the professional level.
And why is that?
Well, I think at the professional level, some players are contracted for certain roles and certain positions.
Yeah.
And so, they just going to play 35 minutes, whether they play hard or not, right?
Yeah.
And you certainly don't want to develop a young team that way. And when you have guys that get charity minutes, all of a sudden, your competitive culture gets impacted negatively. I mean, at the end of the day, basketball is a team game that requires everybody to be fully engaged to have success, period. And I think what Chauncey and his staff have done, and it's very healthy and I'm trying to find the word, authentic about how the game is supposed to be played. You play hard, you're unselfish, and you help your teammate.
That's great. All right, I want to ask you this because we got the deadline, which is coming up in less than 24 hours. You played in the league for many years. How awkward is this time of year for NBA players when you don't know the immediate future with the trade deadline looming? I would imagine it's got to be strange.
It's awkward. I mean, because no amount of money can make you comfortable, right? And when your employer can change your address, right? And one of the things that I think happens in today's NBA that guys struggle with is they make so much money they lose sight of the fact that they're employees. And one of the things I know as a business owner is employers make changes with employees when the baggage outweighs the talent.
Yeah, that's 100% true. With Luka Doncic, great player. I agree that he would be better served by getting himself in better condition. And you were talking about, coaches being truthful. What would it take for Luka? Is it LeBron? Is it somebody else to communicate with him to where he understands that, hey, I've got to ratchet it up a couple of notches on the conditioning level to get myself in. I'm already great, but I can be even better if I get myself in a condition to where I can handle the rigors of an NBA season.
Well, I don't know Luka. I know people, in both organizations, the Mavericks organization and the Lakers organization. This is a Luka decision, and it's hard when you're already as good as he is. So if in Luka's mind there's not a problem, right, then there's not going to be change.
Yeah.
If Luka says, hey, you know what? I want to be better, or I want to feel better, or I want to get better, or I want to be the best. It's going to have to be an inside job, I think, for Luka to change his conditioning because nobody can do it for you.
What was that like for you, though, when you came in the league? And again, nutrition and exercise, there's been so many advancements over the years, probably compared to when you played. But was there someone that took you under your wing where you kind of understood, like, hey, I thought I was in pretty good shape, but these are the things I have to do if I want to have a long career?
Yeah, I mean, I saw different places. I played for, 4 different teams. But the person that stood out to me the most was Terry Porter. I mean, Terry Porter was so disciplined about his diet, about his off-season conditioning, and we became pretty close friends. And I mean, I watched him, and I was like, this dude. I mean, every year before training camp, he would go back to Wisconsin, Stevens Point, and he would go to double secret training with Dick Bennett, and he would do 1,000 abs a day, whatever the heck he would do. And then he would come back just with this conditioning fitness glow to him, right?
Yeah.
And I would look at him like, I've been working out too. But this dude would just be And so Terry was really a good role model for me in terms of conditioning.
How cool is that to work with him on the television broadcast, someone you're tight with like that?
Oh, no, I love Terry. We're close. As a matter of fact, we did a business or sport field trip to Motor Center today with some kids, and Terry was in the locker room and showing kids and talking to them about professionalism and being a pro. And I enjoy his company on the air, and I've always enjoyed his friendship, just because he's somebody that, he's a good guy, but he just has a high level of discipline.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned his conditioning because I was watching you with him last night. I was like, dang, Terry, he looks like he still go out there and play. He looks like he keeps himself pretty fit throughout the course of time, which is nice.
He might be lighter now than when he played.
I know.
mean, because he beefed up a bit to play because he wanted to be physical, with some of the more physical guards.
Yeah, there's no question. Boy, I tell you what, Denny Avdia, I'm just impressed with his physicality. But you were talking about what is his ability? He gets to the rim with physicality and he gets to his spots. How is he doing that with such great success over the last month?
Well, he gets ahead of steam, first of all, kind of like Giannis. And once he gets ahead of steam, he can look at he has the court vision to see the footwork and balance of the defense.
Yeah.
And he knows if you're not in legal guarding position or if you can't get there before he can start his drive. He has the ability to see that while he's going full speed. And then he just knocks you, he just dislodges you.
Yeah.
But scouting is starting to catch up. I finally starting to see people get in front of Denny. I think somebody took a charge on him recently, and I'm like, uh-oh. I was wondering, when is the league going to figure out that you can't just let him get a running start? So it'll be interesting to see what happens on his open court dribble penetration over the next couple of games because the NBA is the league that has incredible scouting.
Oh, there's no question about it. How do you enjoy watching Tamani defend and his willingness to engage against the best offensive players on the opposing team on a nightly basis?
Oh, it's just special. I mean, I feel like I'm looking at one of the best ever, because you look at, you're talking Kevin Durant. You're talking about some of the guys, the best individual one-on-one scorers in the league having problems with Tamani Kamara.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it until I read the quick piece, but he likes to let people know who he's guarding. Like, hey, you're going to be okay if I'm defending you a full length for 48 minutes. Like he chirps a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, no, the one that I think they had him mic'd up when we played Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he told Anthony Edwards, come on, man, you know this. You've seen this in college, man. You know I do this, man. I loved it.
That's great, though. And my guess is a great offensive player or other greats, he might irritate them in the moment, but don't you think they respect the way he competes?
Yeah.
Because game, as you put it, game recognizes game,
Game
right?
recognizes game. And some players can talk and play. Some players can't. And so he's trying to, take up some space in your head in case you're one of those guys that can't.
Yeah, I'd be one of those guys. Well, why is he talking to me right now? It would throw me off my game.
Yeah, and trust me, we could have a whole show about guys that chirped to some of the things I've heard. One of the best was, I think, George Gervin, a young Jerome Kersey was all into George Gervin, right? Trying to just be physical and push him around and knock him off. And Ice was in the twilight of his career. He said, hey, calm down, young fella. He said, I'm going to get mine. You better get yours.
Gosh, I love that so much. Now, you've always talked about how Vinnie Johnson was like your kryptonite because he was so physical and so tough. Did he ever talk, or was he quiet the whole time?
No, Vinnie Johnson didn't talk. And I thought I consider myself to be a pretty physical guard defensively. I
remember back in the day you were strong.
And so but I couldn't move Vinnie Johnson. I couldn't force him off a screen. I just couldn't do anything. And he didn't ever say anything, but he played with guys, John Long and Isaiah Thomas, that didn't stop talking.
Yeah.
They were like, man, you can't check him. I'm like, this don't have nothing to do with you.
Yeah, leave me out of this, man. But I'd almost feel better if I was getting busted up by the microwave if he would at least talk to me a little bit, But if he's just being quiet and killing you at the same time, that's frustrating.
Vinnie Johnson, he don't have nothing to say. His game is doing all the talking.
Gosh, I respect that, though, to be able to come off the bench the way he did so often and just start heating it up immediately with instant offense. I was like, dang, bro.
Yeah, he was a guy that, he didn't have a lot of different ways that he scored, but the couple of ways that he scored were pretty consistent.
Oh, my goodness.
He'd come off a screen, he'd be open, and he'd get the shot up and down before he could get there.
Well, I'm not trying to sound corny. Travis pointed out last night, I didn't realize this. I knew it was, the best stretch they've had in many seasons, but it's the best winning streak they've had in 6 years. I've just had a lot of fun watching them, man. They're playing the right way. They're winning the right way, which is cool. It seems like this team's more of an extension of what Chauncey Billups would want with the way they're competing.
Yeah, because in today's NBA, we're coming off the era where you got to have a couple of stars that carry the water every night.
Yep.
And you're seeing now what can happen when guys just play the game the right way.
Yeah. Well, listen to that. Here's what Coach Billups said after the game last night, because he was asked about different guys on different nights stepping up. And he mentioned that he thinks that's part of the reason why they're hard to guard right now is their versatility.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've played so well, to be honest with you, Aaron, because you can't just gear up to guard one or two people on our team. We got so many people going every single night. You'd never know. It's going to be 2 or 3 or 4 guys, that are getting these 17s, 18s, 20. That makes you really difficult to guard. Teams that we play against, and we can't just lock in on 2 or 3 people. That's the reason why this team, the Pacers, are really difficult to guard, because you just never know. That ball is popping and it's moving, and they're moving bodies, they're moving the basketball, and make you very difficult to lock into. And that's kind of how we've played, when we've been able to get stops. And tonight, we go plus 12 on the glass, which is a really, really big thing that we've been trying to key in on. When we can get stops and get rebounds, man, we can get out there and make it difficult for people. So that's kind of the key for us.
And to your point, Michael, last night, Grant and Simons combined for 42, but Scoot and Shaden each had 17 off the bench. Avdia was active, and then 13.7 rebounds from Tamani. So it was multiple guys making game-winning plays.
Yeah, and to Chauncey's point, when you rebound, when you defend and wrap up a possession with a rebound, and you can play with pace, now you're playing ahead of the your opponent's defense getting set.
Yeah.
So I call that first gear. If you can play a lot of possessions in first gear, you're going to have a high level of shot quality.
Yeah.
But the Blazers are also pretty good in second gear against the set defense, and I think that's the area that they've grown the most in over this winning streak.
Yeah, it was funny last night. That first quarter for two teams playing on the second night of a back-to-back, it was a frantic pace, and you were blown away by that. And then I remember you telling Travis, I don't know if they can keep this up. And then all of a sudden, the second quarter, everything came to a grinding halt.
No, it reminded me of Coach Wooden said, don't mistake activity for achievement.
That's so good. All right, Michael Holton, holding on hoops. Thank you so much, my friend. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the final game of the 7-game homestand, a chance to make it 10 of 11 against the Kings.
I always enjoy being in the studio.
All right, more of the Rip City Drives coming up here on 620 Rip City Radio. a shame. That's all. That's all. And this would be one of my favorite Genesis songs right here. Shame. That's all. I've seen some live versions of this song on YouTube, which is fabulous. I can't feel a thing from my head down to my toes. I'm down with Phil. Never saw Genesis in concert. That's all. I was very thankful that I went down with my buddy Steve. This is back in 2019. We extended our trip out when we went down to Phoenix to catch some football games. And we saw Phil Collins in concert on his farewell tour where he had a number of different U.S. stops. And this was towards the end of his, time on stage. So he was a little bit broke down. He only stood for a couple of songs and he sat in a chair, which was a little bit strange. But I didn't care because it was Phil. All right, 503-248-0620. How good is Michael Holton, by the way? He's one of those guys where, I'm a dumb guy. I mean, I'll admit it right now. There's not a lot of brain activity going on up top for me. So I like it when I talk to someone that's got it going on because then I always feel like I'm smarter after talking to Michael Holton, which is cool. And, guys who have played the game. The one thing I do enjoy, I've had a chance to work with guys who have played, football, basketball, whatever the case may be, baseball. Well, when you get around guys who have played the game, it helps you to understand things on a different level. And I really like that. Because you think you know, what is it Jim Morris says? You think you know, but you don't know, and you never will. Jim Morris got a lot of great things he said over the years, but Michael Holton's pretty sharp. He's on top of it. But very impressed with the Blazers and the way they're playing right now. Very impressed. All right, I heard a couple of more theories on the whole Mavericks-Lakers deal with Luka. Very interesting. And someone told me that from the Laker point of view, that Pat Riley had a conversation with Jeannie Buss and let him know that you got to get out in front of the LeBron situation because he's controlling your franchise. So that's when they pivoted to Luka. And I asked, well, why not get more first-round picks? And that's because the Lakers were like, hey, we don't know if he wants to be here long-term, so we don't want to give up a lot of future capital. And then I asked about the Mavericks side, and it was like, new ownership group comes in. They see Luka not really being a part of the team concept and not responding to the desire for him to be better conditioned, and they didn't want to pay the supermax for that type of player. So a lot of different theories are floating around out there. All right.